Right now is Governor John Kasich of Ohio. Governor, what do you make of what you saw today in Helsinki?
Chris, unbelievable, right? I mean, so sad. I did some interviews earlier, and look, you and I come from the same stock, and we've never seen an American president do this, stand on a stage with a Russian, former KGB, and kind of compare our intelligence community to the Russians. And all this has been said. It's a sad day. And Chris, the one thing that I kind of, as I sit here and reflect and listen to all this is not a time for Democrats and Republicans to start, I told you so, or any of those other things. This is a time for Republicans and Democrats to adopt a traditional model, which is the strong America, belief in our allies, the critical importance of the Western ethic. And perhaps there's some things that Congress can begin to do. Perhaps Republicans who now are starting to become critical, that they begin to speak out, that they begin to take control. I was in Washington last week talking about my great concern about the fraying of the relationship, the G7, NATO, the fact that these things have gone very poorly. Nobody said anything about it. And, when you don't say something about the G7 and then you head to NATO, and that was a bumbled meeting as well, nobody said anything. So where's the surprise here that he would go and ad-lib all this? It's just a sad day for a country. And I'll bet they're trying to figure out how to put the toothpaste back in the tube. But I just hope the damage can be repaired.
Governor, what's in it for the president politically? I mean, he's a politician, you're a politician, but it's hard for me to see the win here. Why does he want to look like he's surrendering to Putin's worldview, to Putin's word, taking him at his word when he's a KGB professional intelligence officer of the worst kind who knows how to lie right to your face? Why is he saying, I believe the guy, or I believe him as much as I believe my director of national intelligence, Dan Coats? Why would he say? What do you say about that? How do you get him to stop doing that?
Chris, I don't know. Maybe it's because people around him have not spoken directly to him. There's a problem with all leaders, CEOs, all big-time leaders, that there's a sense that underlings cannot talk honestly to a leader. And, you know about 13 days when Kennedy said they had groupthink, when everybody thought the same, and how dangerous that is. Nobody is intervening. No one is saying enough is enough. And so yeah. I don't understand it, Chris. I can't figure out why they didn't step up and correct some of the things that he's doing. You don't do it in public. You do it in private. It's pretty astounding. And we hear it across the board. Here's the real interesting question. What is the Republican base going to say? Now, we had a county chairman here in Ohio in a little township or a county called Belmont County who said today, I've had enough, and he's resigned. But where's the base going to be? Are people just going to look the other way? Because now we're talking about critical issues that affect the future of our country and the future of the Western Alliance.
Well, here's a hero for you. Senator John McCain had very strong words for the president after what happened in Helsinki today. Quote, today's press conference in Helsinki, this is John McCain, was one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. The damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate. But it is clear that the summit in Helsinki was a tragic mistake. Your thoughts on that? On John McCain?
Well, I mean, Chris, you and I love John McCain. We don't care what party he's in. It's sad that his voice has been somewhat muted. That means others have to speak up. And, sometimes you got to start, alone. I was at the press club last week talking about my concerns. I've been doing it now for almost 2 years, right? As you know, I didn't go to the convention. I didn't endorse because I was worried about these kinds of things happening. I don't want to be in a position to say I saw this because I was hoping that none of this was going to happen. All I'm asking for are my colleagues to begin to stand up and be heard on trade, on NATO, more than just passing some non-binding resolution. Start taking some action because it's our country and the sacrifices that so many people have made to preserve the liberty and the spirit of America.
Well, let's talk about that, because the Republicans, and I'm impressed by almost all of them, from Charlie Dent to John McCain to Jeff Flake, all across the country. But the only voices are those who are not going to face Republican voters again, in all likelihood. Will you face the Republican voters and run for president against Trump?
I don't know, Chris. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know where the base is. I don't want to be in an election I can't win. I don't know. All of my options are on the table. They remain on the table. Yeah. But what's important, Chris, is that we start getting some Republicans to emerge. There just can't be a few of us. There has to be a greater group who begins to assert themselves because, as we know, foreign policy, love of our country, at its best is bipartisan. So some of the Democrat leaders that want to take shots, why don't you just shut up and begin to work with some Republicans, and let's be united as a country, not practicing partisan politics. Either way, either side.
Right. Well, if the lip syncing in Helsinki's not going to do it, I can't think what will. But Congressman, Governor John Pace, my friend, thank you so much, Governor, for being a strong voice tonight.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.